Welcome to Unclogged Conversations, powered by Larry's Temple Plumbing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment. Today we're talking about slab leaks.
Dun, dun, dun. Trash can that all of your waste drops down into, goes into a pump, grinds it up, shoots it back uphill so it can flow downhill again. So they go out fairly often.
It's a mechanical device.
Yeah, it's a mechanical device added to our well-designed gravity-fed system. Like, you've now taken gravity out of the equation and put power, electrical pumps, all this fun stuff in there. So they have problems. They're gonna have problems. So, get a call, one stopped working, and I was still a little green.
Mostly water slab leaks. I know I said we were going to talk about tankless water heaters, but a lot of slab leaks here recently.
And slab leaks a little more unknown. I mean, tanklesses are getting more and more popular. And again, we can talk about tankless forever. I mean, my gosh, we can put so much into tankless. But slab leaks are hitting right now, where we've got all the weather changes, all the ground movement. It's happening right now really bad. And a lot of people don't know about them.
And it's very seasonal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like water heaters. They seem to be tied to hot and cold patterns.
Yeah.
So do slab leaks.
Yeah.
And a lot of slab leaks is about the ground moving. You go into a wintertime or a summertime and it's dry.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it becomes wet. The foundation moves.
Yeah.
And most of the time the copper is touching the concrete somewhere in that foundation.
Yeah.
And as over the years of it, sitting there constantly you can't feel it, but it's such a minute move.
Yeah. Give it 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah. Especially that 20-year-old, that 20 to 25-year-old copper seems to be the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, those are prime. You got a house that's in that age range.
Yeah.
I promise you're going to end up with a slab leak of some sort, hot or cold.
It does seem like we do a lot of 90s houses.
Because it was copper made with some, from Mexico.
Yeah, it was that.
It was the end of the era of
did not
copper.
Get properly checked.
No, and it was the end of the era for copper. It was PEX was knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And copper had skyrocketed so high.
Oh, there was a huge price increase then, wasn't there?
Yeah, so they were trying to find cheaper means of copper, which meant buy it from Mexico and not buy American-made copper.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper for a reason.
We know now.
It lasted 25 years. So.
I mean, which isn't a terrible run, but
no.
For the price of copper, it should last longer than that.
But signs of a slab leak. What are the first signs you look for on a slab leak?
I mean, a high water bill right off the bat. Think you don't have anything going on. You don't hear anything dripping. You don't have any leaks as far as you can tell. You got a high water bill. And that's generally your first indicator that something's going on.
And most municipalities are on digital meters.
A lot of times they'll send you a high usage notice.
They'll let you know that you've had a continuous usage of X amount of gallons per minute for 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
And so if you're not filling a pool, then you generally got a problem. I mean, the first step I always tell people when they do get a sign, check your toilets. Turn that little stop off down there at the wall and give it 5-10 minutes, turn it back on. If that toilet starts running, you got a problem.
And that might have been your cause.
Yeah, and that's the easiest diagnosing test you could do.
Oh, yeah. And the easiest, cheapest, fastest fix, too.
Yeah. So you do that, you don't see any toilets run, then your best bet is to go to the meter and see if it's moving. And their digitals are a little harder to get to the right page.
Yeah,
you gotta open
close.
Yeah, so you pop your meter lid. There's a little cover that most of the time is open, probably full of dirt.
Yeah. Clean off your screen.
Clean your screen off. Close the lid, reopen the lid. Most of them, it's the third cycle.
You go to the AL.
Yeah.
then
close, open, then that's generally your gallons per minute.
Yeah.
And it'll show you, it should say 0.00.
Yeah.
If there's any numbers on there.
There's water moving somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
In your yard, under your house, somewhere. So what is other signs of a slab leak?
Other signs you'd be looking at, water coming up through your slab is a pretty obvious one. But your floors could start buckling. You start getting random warm spots. Had it before where people didn't find out until after they burned up their water heater. Because, hey, why did I go through 2 water heaters in 6 months? It's like, well, because the thing hasn't ever shut off because you've got a hot water slab leak that you didn't know about constantly dumping underneath your house. So you start getting into stuff like that. Those seem most common ways of finding out.
I believe my favorite telltale sign is all of a sudden that dog or cat picks a spot on the floor that they never laid before.
I love those customers that tell me that's how they found out. They're like, all of a sudden my cat started laying right here, and I've had her for 5 years. She's never laid there.
The ground's floored.
Warm. They feel that warm under that tile, and they love it. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, your cat just found out you have a major problem.
Back to the water heater. Water heaters, I'm going to tell a story of myself. 16 years ago, fairly new company. Got a call for a water heater, excited. Man, I'm going to go change me a water heater. Sold a water heater, installed a new water heater. Customers all happy, collected my money, went home. Got a phone call next day, this water heater's not working anymore.
A day.
What do you mean that water heater? Yeah, I woke up this morning, I don't have any hot water. Okay, I'll come on there and look at it. Test the electrics, elements, thermostats, everything. Everything is fine with this water heater. There's nothing wrong with this water heater. But when did a pressure test on the house, there's got to be something going on here. Sure enough, turn that ball valve off, quit leaking. Turn that ball valve back on the water heater, it dropped that pressure like a rock.
Yep. So it could never catch up.
So that's an embarrassing one to go back to a customer and tell them, hey, we put your new water heater in yesterday, and now you have a slab leak that might have caused your old water heater to go out.
Yeah. Live and learn in the early days. Nowadays, we check.
So if you do have all of a sudden water running out, then I would highly recommend you turn the ball valve off on your water heater and let it sit for a little while.
It's the easiest first check.
Mm-hmm.
And
then turn it back on, and if you just constantly hear water running,
and you got
some water, hot water's going somewhere.
Yeah. And if you don't see it, it's got to be under your house.
So let's talk about the progression of where we came with slab leaks. So when I first started plumbing, every slab leak had to be found with geophones. We've got electronic equipment now. Same thing as a geophone, just amplified with electronic.
Yeah.
So you would have to go around the whole house, especially on code, because you had no idea where it was from, and search and isolate lines and locate lines and pinpoint down exactly where it was. It never failed. It was right there in the middle of that brand spanking new hardwood that you put down.
Or all that.
And this was back before
tile in your kitchen, or
this is back before everybody used the LTV, LV, whatever it's called, the fake wood.
Snapped together. Laser vinyl tile. Yeah.
It was back when people used real hardwood,
real stuff,
a lot of times glued down.
Sorry, I'm about to make you cry.
Yep. And so we would have to find it. Then we'd have to remove the floor covering, carpet, tile, wood, whatever it was, jackhammer hole, dig down 2-3 feet.
Into a muddy mess because it's been leaking for months.
And then we had to do a thing that is lost, a skill that is lost in this trade. We'd have to silver solder.
Yeah.
A coupling and a piece of pipe back in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you had to make 2 holes because it was leaking in the middle of the beam. You had to go on the other side of the beam and cut a hole and dig underneath the beam and run your copper.
And run your pipe, loop up and around.
Yep. And if you know how to silver solder with with the pipe under a slab. Once you learn that, you can silver solder anything.
And that makes sense.
Because you are fighting water the entire time.
Yeah.
It don't matter how hot you get it, how much you vacuum it, how much you do. Water always comes right back to that heat.
Mm-hmm.
And constantly taking it back apart, vacuuming water out, putting it all back together, soldering it back together. Thank God we're past that.
Yeah.
Only if the insurance companies would grow past it.
Yes. I don't know why they're so obsessed with seeing it. I can't figure it out.
So what we're referencing is now that we do a slab leak, we will come to your house, we'll isolate your water system by the manifolds in the wall. All copper will come up, go into the wall, manifold back down, go back to the next fixture.
By code, that's how it has to be. It has to be one solid run. You're not allowed to put any fittings on that copper under the slab.
Nope.
By code. By code, you can't.
You run into houses that have T's on them.
It doesn't mean...
Somebody did a remodel on that bathroom, and instead of moving the manifold, they just bent it over and put it in the concrete.
Yeah.
Ran into that.
Yeah.
And that makes things a whole lot more difficult.
Yeah.
But 95% of the time, I would say, it goes as planned.
Yeah. When it's done right. When your house was built correctly.
You just you find the manifold that's leaking, cut the manifold apart. You'll find the pipe that's empty.
I love how much science goes into it.
Yeah.
It's funny how long it actually took me to wrap my head around tracing everything down. But once you get it, I mean, it's in there.
Yeah. And then there's multiple ways to trace where that pipe goes. You can use electronic equipment, trace the pipe from one end to the other. You can use the method that I'd say 99% of the plumbing companies today use, including us.
Good old fish tape.
Good old nylon fish tape. Thank you electricians for inventing those.
Yep.
Shut the fish tape down, listen for the sound on the other side of the house.
Just start tapping away and have somebody listening.
And cut a hole on that wall. And there's your line from point A to point B.
At your kitchen, at your island kitchen sink.
Yep, now that makes it totally different. All these are excluded from that. Once we find the easiest path, hopefully it's not a two-story house, can be done.
Yeah.
But a lot more sheetrock has to be cut. But on a one-story house, you run PEX line from point A to point B.
So all you're doing is instead of that loop being under your house, now the loop's going through your attic over. That's all you're doing, just moving that line up over here.
Yep. And we insulate and attempt to, I'm not going to say we never put a fitting in the attic, but...
Almost. I mean, it better be dire like we have to.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a choice.
But
we're going to massacre half your house or put a T in.
So we try like everything to keep from putting T's in the attic or any fittings. And so you have a solid loop from wall to wall.
Yeah.
Insulate it with thick wall insulation. We use thicker than is required. And turn your water back on and you're good to go. Rebuild your manifold on each end.
Yep. Just get some sheetrock patched and it's like we were never there.
Whole lot better. A lot less dust.
Mm-hmm.
When we jackhammered houses, man, you just dusted up the whole house.
Oh, yeah. And you can try all the preventatives you want, which help to mitigate, but you're still dusting that house.
So, two-story, I can do the same thing. We got to cut sheetrock from point A to point B, pretty much. I mean, we might be able to get away with cutting a hole here and a hole there.
And that's really just going to be luck on how your house is laid out.
Yeah, how floor joists run. Or,
yeah.
But sometimes we get lucky and that's it. First steps on you think you have a slab leak. Number one, and I tell everybody this, and I wish more people would do this, is call a plumber. Don't call your insurance company.
Oh, yeah. Call us free call insurance.
Most homeowners insurance now are a minimum of 3% deductible.
Mm-hmm. How many houses still around here under $200,000?
Yeah. So you got a 3% deductible. I can almost promise you I can fix your slab leak for less than your deductible. And you can pay somebody else to get your sheetrock and stuff repaired and still be under what your deductible was. And you didn't make a claim on your house.
Yeah.
Because my biggest pet peeve is seeing people do that. They call the insurance company. Insurance company tells me I'll call a plumber or sends a plumber out. And they end up writing the big check to, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 check to the plumber for one or more lines. Then they got to pay then the insurance comes in and they got to get the sheetrock fixed and all that. And when they're done.
And they always want you to jackhammer.
Yeah.
So you got to get your floors done. You're going to ruin your house for a while.
Yeah, and they're not going to move you out.
Yeah.
You're dealing with big dirt piles in your house.
Yeah.
But even if they do let you reroute, some do.
Some do.
You're
going to pay more.
Yeah. Insurance is not writing you a check for anything when you're done. Mm-hmm. You paid all of everybody to meet your deductible, and you might get a couple $100.
Yeah. When you could have just avoided it all, didn't make a claim, and we would have come in under your deductible.
And, some people say, well, I want new floors. They're not going to give you new floors. If you're at the point you want new floors, they're going to give you a prorated amount for those floors that you got.
Yeah. They'll pay you for the floors that are there, not the new floors.
No, and now you're writing a check for the floors you want.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
So please call the plumber first. That is number one.
Yeah.
And let us come out and, our company, and I know a lot of companies, they'll come give you a free estimate.
Yeah.
Most time I can tell you if you have a slab leak without pulling the truck off. Now, there's some time without pulling the tool off. There's some times I have to do a test and stuff like that, and we're going to charge you a diagnostic fee.
Yeah.
And most companies do. But a lot of times they say, no, you got to turn the ball valve off and it stops. Yeah, you got a hot water slab.
Yeah, again, the hot ones give themselves away pretty much. Yeah. Those make it really easy, as long as it's big enough.
Yeah.
Because I've seen slab leaks that won't even register on a meter before.
No, and you've seen them where we do a test and they barely drop, and you're like, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. The smaller they are, the harder they are. The bigger they are, the easier they are.
And there is a possibility of, if it is a small one, it blocking itself up before we identify where it's at.
If it's tiny enough, you've seen the inside of a copper pipe after it's been sitting there for 10, 15 years of water running through it.
Yeah.
That is not a shiny, pretty piece of copper anymore.
It's got algae and all kinds of stuff inside of it.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of minerals built up all over the walls.
Turn that pressure off multiple times doing tests.
You're just going to be knocking them little chips off.
And they find their way right to that hole. I don't know how they find their way to that hole.
Well, that's just where the pressure's going.
Yeah.
It's just...
and so then it blocks it off to where we can't.
And you don't have a leak right now, but that water will wash it away here in a few days.
Yep. Might take a couple weeks. I've seen it take a couple weeks.
And then we'll be back and try again. I'm sorry, that is never what I want to tell somebody. But it happens, and there's nothing I can do. Yeah. 2
or 4 hours trying to find this leak, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
It's aggravating. Mm-hmm. Aggravating for the customer, aggravating for the plumber.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
I can replace everything.
We've tried blowing it out, semi-successful at times by reversing the blow.
But it's such a hit or miss that it's like, are you just wasting time?
You blow from the house towards the street. Sometimes you can. One of the easy misdiagnosed slab leaks is a yard leak.
Yeah. That's why, and then that's another thing that's hard to pitch is that customer shutoff up by the house, but every house should have one.
It's code.
And they should have one. Most people have them, and they've been buried and gone so long that the handles are rotted away. And
valves don't work no more because it's an old gate valve or globe valve.
Yeah, even if you get the thing to turn, it's either going to break closed or break open. And
and so that's the first step that we recommend is if we can't identify if it's in the house, you don't have water showing up somewhere, or something like that, is we suggest installing a customer cutoff at the house.
Yeah.
And then identifying, okay, it's in the yard or it's in the house.
Yeah.
And then you always have that customer cutoff in case of emergency. You're not looking for that tool to turn the water off of the street.
And I've made the mistake in my early days thinking it was a yard leak, and it was actually a slab leak. Walk up and the whole front yard's flooded. I was like, well, yeah, you got a leak in the yard here. Start digging and start following it, and then all of a sudden I'm up at the front of the house. Mm-hmm. Now I'm up under the edge of the house. Mm-hmm. Now this wasn't a yard leak. But if I had that customer cutoff, that ball valve there to shut it off, I could have just walked up and been, it's under the house, not in the yard. It's just coming out from under the house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really important to have those.
It's important to know where it is. I mean, I've seen newer houses that I know of them, and the homeowner is like, yeah, I don't know where it's at.
It's already gotten mulched over,
or they don't even know where it's at. You have to go find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, these things homeowners should know. If your house is flooding, you can run outside and shut that valve off real quick.
Especially the new...
Save your house.
A ball valve. A ball valve will close 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Now, there could be some debris or something in there keeping it from closing fully. But if you get it shut down 99%, it'll save your house.
Yeah. Big difference.
Yeah. And so I highly recommend you find that. If you can't find it, hire you a plumber to find it.
And don't be scared of having your clean outs a pipe too.
I don't know why everybody wants to cover them up.
Everybody's scared of seeing them. I don't like those things. Why? You're going to really like them when you need them.
Yeah, you're going to like not paying the plumber multiple line items.
Having to go up on a roof and run a camera down the vent, or pull a toilet, run a camera so that I can find where they're at because you didn't like them, cut them off and covered them. And
yeah, and a lot of times they're not far from each other.
And that's what brought me to that is generally there are within a few feet of that.
Some of the newer houses,
valve.
The customer cutoffs on one side. If the meter's on one side of the driveway, the customer cutoffs on that side of the driveway. It's not older houses. They didn't do it that way very often. I've seen some.
Yeah.
A lot of your newer homes, they're on the side of the driveway.
Yeah.
And so that's one place to look. If you got a hose bib on that side, generally they're in that area.
Yeah. But
if they're not there, then they're going to be up by your flower bed, by your cleanouts, and they ran them in the same ditch.
Yeah.
Benefits to running slab leaks, overhead are...
I mean, I've got a couple. A big one of doing the reroute instead of the spot repair is because another issue we were running into for years is you'd go there, you'd be like, all right, you have a slab leak. I've pinpointed it with the geophones or whatever equipment you're using to find it. Jackhammer it down, go down, fix it, put all the dirt back, put the concrete back. They go through insurance, get their floors redone, all this. House is all back straight. 6 months later, you're calling me again. I'm getting another high usage again, or I got water showing up again, and
your leak didn't hold.
Your repair didn't hold. Mm-hmm. Well, you go down, bust up, your repair is holding like a dream. You go about 4 feet further along that pipe, same dang pipe, another leak on it.
Yep.
It's because generally that whole piece of pipe was bad and inferior, and you're just going to start getting pits through it.
So what caused, besides bad pipe, what was the number one cause of slab leaks or leaks in copper pipe?
Say
turbulence.
Okay, because I was going to say reaming the pipe or improper bedding.
Yeah. Turbulence is probably the biggest thing. I used to blame it on improper bedding more when I was younger in plumbing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they didn't install it correctly. But the more, I guess it still falls under that, but the more I've plumbed and the more I've looked and the more I've repaired, I've came to the conclusion that a lot of it is from not reaming your pipe. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't do it as often as I do now.
Oh, in the early days, I was like, this seems pointless and silly and stupid. But no, there's legitimate science behind it.
So when you cut that with a copper tubing cutters, it flares the inside of that, leaves a little lip.
It in a little.
Yep. Because it creases that pipe when you're cutting at that very edge, and it flares the inside of that pipe just a little bit. If you don't use the tool and cut that little lip out, you'll get turbulence in the water.
Because as that water's coming through, going down that smooth pipe, and it hits that lip, well, now you've created this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So right where it hits that lip and bounces in, that's where it's going to start wearing on your pipe. And it just, again, give it years.
Yeah.
You can cut the Grand Canyon in enough time.
Yep.
I mean,
and so that's a big issue. Kinked pipe will do it.
Yeah. Kinkle cause that turbulence too.
When they roll that copper up into that wall, I mean, I don't know how many times people tell you, the leak's right there under, I can see the water as soon as I turn it on.
Wall, just get it there.
Yeah. Well, but then you get the customer going, I cut a hole in the wall. As soon as I turn the water on, it comes right out of that hole, right by that pipe. It's right there. All you got to do is chip a little concrete and fix it. No, it's not there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's close to there, but you're probably about 6 inches to a foot off.
Yeah.
It's down at the bottom, coming right out of the concrete where they kinked it when they rolled it up in there.
And probably in a beam.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably got foot to 18 inches of concrete we got to deal with right there. So no, I've got to jackhammer a hole in front of it, go down and rebuild it up through, or we can reroute it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the leak's right there below the slab, I mean, once you're looking at costs.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, now you get back to what you said earlier. You get rid of that whole pipe.
Yeah.
There is no, I hope it don't leak again.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to worry about it. That pipe's done.
I mean, we rerouted whole houses. We had houses that they had multiple leaks
and
on
after
multiple
about
lines.
The third or fourth time, they're just, forget it.
Yeah, they're saying, I'm done. What does it cost to just do the whole house, a hot, cold?
Yeah.
I don't want to worry about this anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's the best way to go. That's the best solution.
It is the best solution.
Because if the pipe leaks up there, you're going to know really, really fast.
Really fast. And the pipe we're using is less likely to freeze.
It still could freeze.
It still can, but...
It's less likely to bust.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Said that wrong. Yeah. Because it's got room to expand a little. Mm-hmm. Copper's pretty darn rigid.
And that's the biggest reason we try to avoid fittings up there. Because a fitting will expand the crimping, no matter what kind you use, type A or type B. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when the water comes back on or the pressure hits it, blows that pipe right out of that fitting or right off that fitting.
Yeah.
And now you got a flood.
Yeah.
But we try, like everything, just to run one. And if we do put a fitting in the attic, we insulate it really well.
Oh, yeah. You'll see an extra thick wad where a joint's at.
So that's the typical signs of a water line slab leak. Now, one thing we didn't cover was we talked about the silver solder. Now you can pro press.
Yes, depends on the brand, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That was my next. That was kind of trying to trick you there.
Okay. I was just making sure nobody else had gotten approved since the last I heard.
As far as I know, there's only one brand that's allowed under slab. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong in the comments. That brand right there. Viega. However you want to say it.
Viega.
It is a German brand. They're actually based out of here now, but started in Germany. That is by far the best PEX, best Pro Press, best Mega Press, in my opinion.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, I got completely sold on it, and as far as I know, they do more stringent testing on their material than anyone else does. That's why they get approved for more applications.
In 2018, we went from Zern Type B to Upenor Type A. I thought it was a good idea.
Start some fights today.
Yeah. I'll fill comments up. Type B is better, I promise. Prove me wrong. Type A is a good material. The problem, in my opinion, on Type A is cold expansion is not a good idea. Now, the selling point of it was you didn't lose as much friction loss because the fittings were bigger.
Yeah.
You had to cold expand the pipe and put it over.
Yeah. So you weren't getting the fitting inside the end of the
pipe. It's supposed to be close to the same size.
Yeah.
It ain't.
It's not.
But it's closer than Type B.
It gets you a little more, but you'd still have to upsize.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter.
But we used that for about a year. Slow. Installation is twice as long.
Yeah.
Twice as frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's cold.
Yeah.
Especially if it's wet.
Yeah.
It will freeze. Won't burst. Although I've probably seen more of it, Type A burst than Type B.
I've not seen a lot of Type B.
I've seen Type A burst.
And like one of the few ones I saw, and that is an issue with PEX, is rodents.
Yeah.
But generally the only time I ever see it actually do a freeze break is because something had already chewed on it or scratched on it.
The ones I've seen with Type A were the fittings were really close. I don't know if that has something to do with it.
Maybe.
The PEX was stretched in that area already. Weakened it when you put it on.
Yeah, we start doing the forward and backwards to get fittings close to each other.
But it'll blow off. Type B will blow off, which Viega's a Type B. Zern's a Type B. There are other brands out there which will cover PEX in great detail. But it will freeze in the attic. The biggest thing to do is just turn your water on and let it defrost, and it will shrink back to its own size, A or B. And your problem's solved.
Yeah. Just had to deal with it.
And that's what allowed us.
Running for a minute.
The invention of PEX is what allowed us to do reroutes.
Yes. I've seen some done in copper.
I don't recognize that.
So please don't do that.
I saw some done in 21 when we had a big freeze.
Oh, yeah. And saw that we're done. Saw what was left of the house afterwards, too.
Yeah. That's what most of the ones I repaired were in attics. Either hose bibs that were added and ran over, or reroutes done.
Yep.
Not a lick of insulation on them.
Yeah. Gosh, those were horrible because you repair a 5-foot section. All right, turn the water back on.
Oh, there's another one.
Turn it off, and you're 5 more feet down.
Fittings. Just wasting fittings.
Like, man, we should just replace the whole dang run.
PEX will freeze, but PEX is, I'm not going to say it won't bust, but very, very unlikely to.
You stand a lot more of a chance.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anything else you want to add to?
I mean, we covered at least the freshwater side of slab leaks pretty well. Yeah, the sewer slab leaks are a different ballgame. I'd honestly rather a freshwater leak than a sewer slab leak.
One sign that I don't think we discussed is moving foundation.
We touched on it a little bit.
If you see cracks.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you start seeing cracks in your sheetrock, cracks in your bricks on your outside wall.
Doorways not closing.
And that could be freshwater or sewer leak.
So if you notice that, now if you're in an old pier and beam house, it's probably not that.
So yeah, I'm in the old pier and beam house where like it rains for 2 days and I can't open my back door anymore. Yeah. That's not proper drainage.
That's just not a very strong foundation.
Yeah. It was made to float and breathe.
Yeah, breathe. That's it. All right. So if y'all got any more questions on waterline slab leaks, put them in the comments.
Reroutes and everything. Yeah, we're happy to touch back on it.
You got a story for us today?
Ooh, got a little short one. A little fun one for a few years back.
Oh, wrong button.
Oh, not the toilet. There's my drip.
There it is.
Got to have that drip. So, a few years back, we're working on probably the thing I hate working on the absolute most. Lift stations. Does anybody know what a sewage ejector pump is? So that's what, when you don't have enough fall to get to the city sewer line or to get to your septics or whatever you're trying to get your wastewater to go to.
They're notorious for people wanting to add on a bathroom somewhere and they can't get the fall and they just get sold a lift station.
Yeah. And so it's basically a big trash can that all of your waste drops down into, goes into a pump, grinds it up, shoots it back uphill so that it can flow downhill again. So they go out fairly often.
It's a mechanical device.
Yeah, it's a mechanical device added to our well-designed gravity-fed system. Like, you've now taken gravity out of the equation and put power, electrical, pumps, all this fun stuff in there. So they have problems. They're going to have problems. So, get a call, one stopped working, and I was still a little green, still a little early on in my plumbing career, didn't always think everything out ahead as far as I should. So I'm like, the pump's broken. All right, well, let's get it out of there. Let's see what's going on. So I just immediately start disconnecting the lines, go to pull it up. Well, it turns out the only reason why it wasn't working was because the float was hung. So when I disconnected the pipe, pulled it up, well, guess what? I got that float loose. And I hear that motor kicking on, and I tried to dive out of the way as fast as I could because that pipe was pointing straight at my face. I managed to get mostly out of the way, and it ejected. It only caught my side and everything, but I knew what they had for dinner last night.
There you go. Solve the corn.
So that was a lot of fun. Make sure it's unplugged before you start working on it, and at the very least, not pointed right at you.
Unplugged's always a good thing.
But yeah, unplug's a smart way to go.
E-power tool, anything, always unplug it first.
Yeah. But yeah, just hearing that motor hit, I knew I had messed up as soon as I heard that motor kick on. And yes, unplug it.
And there's that'll probably be a show later on. It'll be ejector pumps, lift stations.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of stories behind those.
There are.
And those are something I highly recommend you get a well-trained professional. Everybody thinks they can do them; they're easy.
There's so much that can go wrong on them.
I worked on one in Mansfield for about 14 hours straight until we finally figured out by a supplier what we were doing wrong.
Yeah.
You were there.
Oh, the drill a hole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the most frustrating probably job I'd done in a long time.
Because we'd get it to work once, and it would stop. Mm-hmm. It would work once, it would stop. It had power to the pump, float was working, everything was fine. Turns out you just needed to drill a little hole in the
relief hole,
and then everything went back to working perfect. Just kept. Was that vapor lock?
Yeah.
Is that what was happening?
Well, yeah, it'd come down and it'd fill the pipe, and it'd lock it, and the pump would run, but it couldn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
I think we even changed the pump.
We did. And it had the same problem with the second one.
Yeah.
Well, because we didn't do it. So live and learn. Like, nobody's perfect. We're all human. Mm-hmm. We've all got a lot to learn, and plumbing is endless topic.
Yeah.
My gosh. We got that old guy working for us who's probably forgotten more than I've ever known about plumbing.
I plan to have him in here. It'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it will be a fun one.
All right, well, that's it for today's show. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and like. We do appreciate you joining us in. And next week, I think we're going to go to the tankless. Let's talk about non-condensing, because for years, that was my favorite tankless.
Which I understand why that would be your favorite.
I didn't care for the condensing models. It seemed like a pain in the rear to me to have to retrofit, trying to figure out what I was going to do with the condensate. The venting was much easier.
Venting was nice because you could just run PVC up.
Yeah. You could save quite a bit of money there, but then you had to turn around and determine and plan what you're going to do with the condensate.
Because it's just like your AC unit, just how your AC has a drain. Mm-hmm. It drains all the time. That has to go somewhere.
We'll do tankless next week.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all the different brands, different types. It'll be a good show.
Oh, yeah.
Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see you next time.